Today we're talking about love from a practical point of view. Not so much how when we were in the Song of Songs and its high and exalted perspective of love being the nature of God, the nature of Jesus and his relationship with us, but this is love in Proverbs, which means we're getting practical. It says in Proverbs 10 verse 12, hatred stirs up dissension, but love covers all wrongs. Remember that famous line from Macbeth, double, double, toil and trouble. That was the three witches who were stirring up evil and hatred in their cauldron of malevolence. They wanted chaos to rule the world. Everything that is wrong with the world finds its roots in hatred. Often when we are angry, the strong emotion that we feel seems justified. Almost any reasonable person will agree that you have the right to feel angry about some injustice that was done to you, about how you were treated, about how they spoke to you, about how they ignored you, about how they gossiped about you, how they slandered you, about what they stole from you, what they did, what they didn't do. And the very presence of hatred within us ought to be an alarm bell. That dissension or that division that you feel in your soul is a sure sign that you're not together. It will take any opportunity to spread and cause dissension beyond you. It will not rest just in tearing you apart. It will only be happy when it tears everything around you apart. Hatred is an evil first felt in the soul as disturbance. It seeks to attach itself then to an idea. The idea may even seem like a noble idea. For Macbeth, it was the idea that he would be king. Ideas may not seem like they have a life of their own. It may seem as though it is just a thought in your head, but when they're fueled by hatred, ideas develop a personality and they spread and they take hold of people. They can even possess people. Look at the modern disruption movements in the world today. They masquerade as some kind of social justice, but instead they're bent on creating conflict. The antagonism is evidence of dark motives stirring the pot, hubble, bubble, toil, and trouble. Of course, there would be no hatred if there was not, first of all, love. Hatred is the very antithesis of love. And if it was not for the fall, then love would never have been inverted, and the inversion of love is hatred. Love brings order out of chaos. Love brings right out of wrong. Love brings goodness out of evil by taking its opposite and inverting it and converting it. This is what happens when a person is converted. The hatred in the soul towards God and towards the world is converted, inverted, and returned to its first condition, to the state of love. Through the cross, everything that is wrong with the world, all the hatred, all the lies and corruption and dissension, was forgiven and atoned for. Love covers all wrongs, not just a few wrongs, not merely little wrongs, but love covers all wrongs. When the Son of God became the Son of Man, God put on overalls and entered our world to show us exactly how love works. So when the woman was caught in adultery and the hate-filled mob was intent on capitalizing upon her exposure, Jesus countered their hatred by covering her with love. And after he dismissed the crowd, he said to the lady, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Love knows no condemnation. And when when you are tempted to capitalize on others' faults, to capitalize on their failures, stop yourself. When you stop yourself from capitalizing upon them by thinking in your mind, well, they deserve whatever happens to them, by repeating their failures to others, by exposing them in the hope that you might gain some higher level of status in the world in which you inhabit. Stop. That's your first step towards covering all wrongs. You just stop yourself from doing that. Peter wrote, "Love covers a multitude of sins." So evil will use the exposure of one's failure to stir malevolence, but love will cover in order to make amends. Evil tried to exploit Adam and Eve's nakedness, but God provided them with a covering. Love covers like a bandage covers a wound, dressing the wound, shielding it. In so doing, it promotes evil. Hatred, on the other hand, would like the wound to be exposed so that it could become infected and grow worse. Love doesn't expose. Love doesn't gossip. Love doesn't slander. It is not resentful. It doesn't rejoice at wrongdoing, but it rejoices with the truth. Love even asks that we love our enemies. How can you love an enemy? Well, first of all, you can't consult your feelings, how you feel about them. Instead, you need to approach them in the most practical way. This is Proverbs, remember, practical wisdom. We need to approach our enemies in the most practical way, the level of duty. So the Bible simply says, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. So the result will be an awakened conscience in the mind of your enemy. Bible says, for in so doing, when you do good to your enemy, in so doing you will heap coals of fire upon their head. And so you awaken their conscience. The ultimate reward of love is to see the soul of those who are against you turned around until they are ashamed of what they have done and what they have said, and their hearts will be converted and turned towards you. Remember, Romans says that while we were still enemies, the enemies of God, Christ died for us on the cross, while we were even his enemies. And that is the very thing that impacted us and caused our hearts to be converted, to change, and to turn towards him. In this way, when we do the same, love covers a multitude of sins. That's the power of love. No matter what the enemy has introduced into the world, love can deal with it. And so let's do that. Let's be lovers and not haters. God bless you. I'll see you soon for more wisdom out of the book of Proverbs.